What's up to all our sidekicks and henchmen out there in Geek Nation? Let's see, I'm bringing it up the notes so that I can read it. Here we go.
You don't know your intro.
Noel wrote a whole thing, so I'm going to read it. You're currently tuning into the CultPop Podcast spoiler alert live stream, where we talk about and review the past week's comics. I'm your host, Johnny Destructo, and I'm the owner of Johnny Destructo's Hero Complex at 4327 Main Street, Philadelphia, PA, snuggled peacefully inside the neighborhood of Manayunk. With me this week is the new owner of the glorious Superman and Batman Generations Omnibus by John Byrne. Len, a.k.a. the Bat Tribble.
Hey, what's
Tell
up,
people
everybody?
something. Yeah.
I am glad to be here. I'm looking forward to reviewing these films and the very special review that we have coming your way this morning.
Oh, that's nice. The constant ray of deep-throated sunshine that is Brian Lieb is off this week, but here to dim some of that shine is Noel. Hi, Noel.
Hi, everybody. I'm here to ruin your mornings.
Not just this morning, every morning.
Every morning.
Yeah.
In
Whether or not
perpetuity.
he's here. Yeah. Today, we're going to do something a little different, as Len alluded to. We're going to review some books. That's not the different part. We do that every single week. But we're going to review some books, and then we're going to talk about the streaming event of the year? Month, at least. That's right. Zack Snyder's Justice League. Some big guests are going to... No, they're not. Some very small guests are going to join us for that conversation. And it's only one of them. It's Rob. Rob Patey, who is a longtime podcaster from this show. He's going to return and talk about the movie later with us. So be sure to stick around if that's your jam. If it's not your jam, get the hell out of here. We don't want anything to do with you. We have letters.
Yes, we got letters.
We have
Oh,
letters.
we got lots and lots and lots and lots of letters.
Letters.
Hey guys, it's your boy Charles in Chattanooga, aka Green Lantern Tribble, aka Hal2814. I was listening to the Sunday podcast, and Noel brought up the fact that there were no letters. I'm guilty of this, not because I don't like writing to y'all, but I've gotten used to commenting on YouTube or with JD on Twitter, at JDsHeroComplex on Twitter. Here we go. I hate missing the live podcast because I work night shift, so I'm usually sleeping. So I watch later. As far as nonstop Spider-Man, I love the art. I love Chris's artwork since Generation X. Later, his run on Doctor Strange, and I love how he shows Peter's Spidey sense giving him instruction. That was pretty cool. It was like part of the artwork. I like that a lot. That was pretty dope. Noel, my favorite color is blue. Also, I'm getting an echo, just in case anyone cares. I guess because it's a relaxing color. From growing up in the Bahamas, and being around the ocean a lot. That sounds delightful.
Yeah, I had asked in letters. I had asked favorite colors, but not just favorite colors. You need to give me the reason as to why this color is your chosen favorite. So directions. I like it.
I know I'm jumping around, but whatever. Lol. I've heard a couple podcasts about the last episode of WandaVision and actually took part in one. Sci-fi Party Line, installed plug here, but I love how fanboys/fangirls are butthurt that their theories didn't come true or they didn't get cameos they wanted. I was wrong with my theories, but I wasn't mad. The story all along was about Wanda's grief, and as a person who has dealt with a lot of grief, I appreciated that. Now that it's warmed up here in Chattanooga, I love listening to you guys on Sunday as I work in the yard.
Oh.
And clean the pool. Love you guys, and I promise to write more. In closing, gotta talk!
That's awesome. Thank you for the email.
Yeah.
I shamelessly plugged for emails. It was ridiculous. We had no letters, not even from stalwarts, no letters. So we had some question prompts. I'm happy that Hal followed the question prompts. What did you guys think of WandaVision, or like just the fact that like people are oddly butthurt because they didn't call it?
See, my thing
it's so weird.
My thing is, if you know, it's all fun to have theories and talk about what you think might happen and everything like that. But at the end of the day, if a movie is one of two things, if it is, especially if it's dealing with a property that you maybe have a little bit of history with, if it's true enough to that history, right? Or if it's true enough to it's consistent with the universe in which it sets up, then that's really the job to me. Whether then it just boils down to whether or not it's a good story or not. Case in point, the Christopher Reeve Superman, if you look at that, especially in the first two movies, is true enough to the Superman that everybody has grown up with in the comic books, despite having some very wild divergence from it. Superman's never thrown a S shield and wrapped people in it.
Yeah, part 2 especially is so crazy wild. Thank you for that.
Right, but it's wildly divergent, but everybody still hails it because it still hones close enough to the Superman mystique that we know that we would just ride with it, right? Then you get to Zack Snyder's Man of Steel. That Man of Steel does not feel like the Superman we grew up with, but that Superman is consistent throughout the film. Mm-hmm. So I'm fine with it, and I can take that as a good movie. And then hoping that, okay, maybe I think I see where this Superman may go to become the Superman that I want. And they try to make it there, and we'll argue that case of whether or not they stick the landing or not. But that's fine. Turn to WandaVision. I have an idea of what I think Vision and Scarlet Witch are, but I don't have no hard, line like this is Scarlet Witch and this is Vision. This was close enough to the Wanda and the Vision set up in the MCU, which they hadn't done anything really with either of those characters that much. So this is really the first time to fully flesh them out. And it was fine. Did they give you some Easter eggs, some member berries to kind of make you like, ooh, and maybe throw a couple of bones like Agatha Harkness and all that type of stuff in the twins? Sure. But if it doesn't play out the way you want it, that's because it wasn't your Wanda and your Vision. As long as they were consistent with the characters that they built up in the story, which they were, I'm fine with it. And whatever member berries they gave me were great. And the people that get butt hurt over it, I think you just have to learn to get over it, which I think people will do in time.
It's so wild, and I don't even want to simplify it as personally. I don't even want to simplify it as my expectations weren't met, because they're completely fabricated expectations in real time that are created willy-nilly.
Right.
Like it's not like WandaVision as a show made all these promises and all these hints and winks at us about very specific things that people were calling for. They just started to in real time and then got aggressively upset when they weren't right with the shit that they made up. It's such a weird level of fan fiction privilege to be mad at something for not thinking what you thought.
Right.
It's so weird to me. And I don't know if I don't think it applies to other stuff, like the I probably will talk about it later. Like the Snyder bronies willed something into existence and their expectations were met. This was happening in real time and reverse engineered from a premiere. So it was reactionary butthurtness, which was also kind of even more stupid. I can understand if I, was a part of this movement that created something and then was upset by it. I mean, that's like investment.
Yeah.
Over the course of 3 weeks that they got so hurt about it, which was weird. But anyway, I don't like it.
People would come into my shop and they'd be like, "Hey, Jadles, what are your theories on WandaVision? What do you think? Is it Mephisto?" And I was like, "No, it's not Mephisto. It's not. I don't even know why you think it's Mephisto, but all right." I never engage in theories. That's not part of the fun of enjoying a series to me. It was like, they're gonna do this. I'm there to enjoy the story that they're presenting to me, and I like to unfold the pieces as they're presented. But I don't really have. I don't engage in it because I don't want to be disappointed. I 9 times out of 10, the thing that I think it's going to be is not the thing, and I'm usually surprised. I'm usually surprised pleasantly by that. If I here's what I don't get. If I am thinking of what you're going to do later and I'm right, I'm disappointed because I'm not that smart. And if I am figuring out what you're going to do and I'm right, I hate it because I'm like, I wanted you to do something that I'm not going to think of to surprise me, to entertain me.
Right.
You know, that's kind of my whole thing. There's been times where, all right, do you ever have a friend or someone you know? And
I don't have friends.
Well, okay. Do you ever have an acquaintance? And you're like, I know that he's gonna do this thing. If I say A, he's gonna say B, and it's gonna piss me off. And not only are you right, but you're even more annoyed because you were right. Like, I knew he was gonna say that. I'm even madder now.
Right.
It's related
They're
to
all
that.
conversations with douche, right?
Yeah, I know. I know Deuce is gonna make this sexual innuendo. He did it, that son of a bitch. We're just teasing because he's backstage and he can hear us, but we can't hear him.
The grayed out gesticulations is his approving of like, no, I will make that sexual reference. That's true. Yeah.
That's just how I feel about it.
Even the Mephisto theories, which I'm sure like that kind of character will come into like Doctor Strange stuff if they ever do it. But even the origin of those theories, I find frustrating because everyone has it in their head now that Marvel Studios is going to do things very specifically, and the idea that like, well, Mephisto is a big villain in the Avengers now, so he has to be in charge or in a big deal in the movies, as though it's that real-time lockstep, which is just so stupid. Like, they could be two different things. I'm sure like when somebody's costume changes, that doesn't mean that Kevin Feige will completely readjust the entire MCU in order to like line up with an Avengers event that's happening right now. Relax.
You say that and I agree with you. However, there are some receipts on the Marvel end about
the other way.
Okay, yes, they do some reverse engineering of some things. Case in point, Nick Fury. But they do, considering how much synergy has grown in Marvel between the comics and their movies, and now they did so much to kind of like bring the television in more lockstep with that as well, that into that circle. It would not surprise me if Mephisto becomes more of a deal going forward in other aspects in the live action world of Marvel.
Would not surprise me a year or two from now, not right now while the comics are going on.
Well, no, it's not going to be right now. But that's because these things take.
Mephisto's a thing.
Okay, all right, all right, and that's true, and that was silly, for them to think of. But it doesn't mean a year from now could still be tracked back to this,
Wanda.
What him showing up now.
That's fair.
We have another letter.
Oh, do we? Oh, goody.
Yeah. From Carl's friend of the show.
Hey, Carl! Yeah. What's up, Carl? Smacking that ass like usual. Works with friends, bruh. But it's with love, bruh. Because I love you, bruh.
I'll read the email now.
I like it.
Actually, you know what? We got some
feeling.
people commenting. Let's just say hi to some of these folks here. I don't want to ignore them. Good morning, hoppers. What did I pick up LCA today? Asked Robert Monroe Jr. I'm going to say Nightwing number 78 by Tom Taylor. We're going to review it a little bit. I'm also going to say Ultra Mega number 1 from James Herron. We're going to review that in a little bit. Those are my 2 picks. Good morning, says Samuel. Dave Mars Comic says, I made it. Good morning, JD. Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone heard you.
We did.
Hello. What's up? What's going on? How you guys doing? What do you guys like better, bike or Power Wheels? Power Wheels were those little ones where you like do this and then you pull the brake and you skeet, right? Is that what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Are those Power Wheels?
Yeah.
No.
Power Wheels. It had a little
Oh,
battery.
yeah. They had the battery in it. Yeah. Right.
Oh, never mind. I was thinking of those
Power
little
Wheels was entitled.
freewheelers.
Yeah, you were thinking of the big wheel.
Big wheels.
That's what you were thinking of. Yeah.
My
the
answer
answer
is
is
big
bike.
wheels.
Which is not his question.
I'm gonna go bike because I didn't grow out of the bike, as in like size wise.
That's true.
I'm going to go bicycles, and this is because Action Figure Expert is referring to round 3 of the Totally Toys tournament, which we had this past Thursday. And bicycles made it out of the 3rd round to join in the ultimate toy box, Legos and vibrators, to see what will
Back massagers? I don't understand.
Yeah.
ask Sam. So so next week is the final round of the Totally Toys tournament. We're going to see who's going to be the last entrant into the toy box, and then we're going to see who's the winner of the greatest toy of all time.
And you're talking about the Black Tribbles podcast, which is Thursday nights at 9 p.m.
Yes, that
Yes,
podcast.
okay.
Thank you.
Let's see. Mars says, I love being surprised myself. Guessing is fun, but I love it when something totally unexpected happens.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
I think it's all about speculation. I think the people that were most upset are those that are speculating / flipping comic books.
True. Yeah.
Didn't even think of that. Nice. All right. Oh, and then Robert Monroe Jr. says, butthurt fanboys, fangirls need to stop complaining about product not turning out the way they think it should and start creating their own product. No one is forcing them to watch or read this stuff. Okay. Fair, valid. All right. So back to the email at hand from Carl Carls. Hey, JD, Len, Noel, and Brian. Here you go. I have written you an email, so now you can stop whinging. Which is just whining from other parts of the world. I know I am definitely in the minority here, but I did not really like Hoxpox, that being Jonathan Hickman's House of X Powers of 10 event that re-kicked off the X-Men status quo as it currently exists now, which I personally loved all to hell. Mm-hmm. He continues, I've never liked the X-Men as characters, so I don't think that I was ever really going to be in the bag for it. I purchased a copy of the Hoxpox hardcover from the Book Grocer, which is where I got all of the books I sent you. Oh well, some things you just can't connect with, I guess. I could appreciate the level of craft that was applied to the overall project, but I have a level of disconnect with the characters. In fact, with most Marvel characters.
Ooh.
I am definitely a DC guy overall. I like Marvel stuff, but generally gravitate towards DC. Honestly, prefer the Marvel films to most of the books. It's a question for you all. Given the current trend of superhero and comic book films, is there anything that you would like to see adapted? If so, why? Knee pads, Len. Knee pads. Your friend, Carl. All right, first things first. What?
That is a reference to where did that come up? I think that came up when I was talking about I had like a rug burn on my knee. So that's
Gotcha.
I think it was here.
Sense.
I can't remember. I do a lot of podcasts. What was the
Given the current trend of superhero and comic book films, is there anything you'd like to see adapted?
So like a superhero, I take it in that world. That's a good question.
There are things that I would like to see adapted. There's one specific that I would love to see adapted, but it was already kind of ruined.
Oh,
I
what's
remember
that?
after Man of Steel, the big deal was the big announcement was somehow I guess Zack Snyder had come on stage at a convention or something, and he quoted Dark Knight Returns, and then we all flipped our shit thinking the next movie was going to be Dark Knight Returns. And then it was just some sort of Franken monster version of that, where it's just like, well, I'll just take the armor from that, and also his brutality, and
Right.
that's all we're going to really use from that. And also that he fights Superman. But as one of my all-time favorite Batman tales, I would say I was looking forward to that. That never happened, and now I think the ship has kind of sailed on that.
Yeah.
Because so many elements were kind of used and abused from that, but not actually part of it.
Yeah. I'm trying to think.
That's a fun question.
Adapted into live action, because there's a lot of things that I would love to see animated. But I think the thing that is immediately coming to mind is, and I'm going to say in the world of Marvel and DC, just because, that's the popular stuff. I would love to see, there's two things. I would love to see a real world hard edge, and I'll even let Tom Hanks do this, get somebody funky with it. A hard edge World War II superhero tale featuring the Justice Society of America. And you could take maybe like the old All-Star Squadron book from the 80s. That would be kind of cool to pull into a Justice Society book. I think that would be pretty dope. I would say that, so that would be my DC pick. My Marvel pick, as I scan my trades right now, is that more than 20 years, probably 30 years ago, if not longer. Frank Miller and Bill Sienkiewicz did a miniseries called Elektra Assassin, which was kind of like a prequel of a sort of Elektra, and she's teamed with this kind of like rogue shield agent who, because he gets rebuilt, is almost like a cyborg type of thing, and they have this mission to stop this enemy from killing the president. Is real wild, imaginative, funky Bill Sienkiewicz art. Made one of the better things that Frank Miller has written, and it would be cool as animated, but it might even be funkier of a adapted into live action. Maybe get somebody real like avant-garde to direct it. I don't know. I'm thinking David Fincher, but just get somebody just to like play around with that and get funky. That would be my my Marvel pick.
Nice.
And that would do Elektra right, because Elektra, outside of while she was done okay on the Daredevil show, I still didn't feel like the Elektra that I know. So that would be.
I have an answer. I've been passively listening while I help somebody. I have an answer though. I would just like them to restore the Snyderverse.
Shut the fuck up.
Actually, I really want to see a well done Booster Gold / Blue Beetle in live action.
So may I interject? Are you asking for a Blue Beetle Booster Gold where, like, a lot of the stories recently with Booster Gold have involved time travel and putting together a team from different eras and all that sort of stuff? That's sort of like the go-to Booster Gold story right now. Are you talking about something like that where we get to see a bunch of different DC characters? Or are you talking about just Booster Gold and Blue Beetle on an adventure doing their own thing, sans everybody else?
Maybe separately, but I don't like, you're referring to like the Generations Forged and Shattered crap. I mean,
there's been a bunch of that, but yeah, basically.
No, not the Rip Hunter kind of thing. Booster Gold as from the 3000 century or the 30th century,
Mhm.
a screw up, stealing things, and then going back in time and kind of discovering what it is to be a hero with future tech. I think that's a wonderful story that no one's like doing. The introduction of just like a man best friend or a platonic love interest in Booster or in Blue Beetle, I think is just wonderful. Like a bromance between two B superheroes, I think, could just be so incredibly fun on the screen, but no one's doing it. So Bucky and Falcon. Maybe.
Right. Hey, I was about to say.
They're an odd couple kind of thing. When it comes to Booster Gold and Blue Beetle, it was almost like meeting each other's hetero life mates immediately.
Right. It's a totally different dynamic.
That's the Jamie Reyes stuff.
No.
Yeah. I kind of want Ted Cord.
Yeah, nothing against that kid.
Reyes is cool as hell.
Yeah.
But there's no blue and gold with
Jaime Reyes. Just to be
there's
fair.
no blue and gold with Jaime Reyes. And for Marvel, I don't know that Marvel. It seems real for Marvel. They could do whatever the hell they want in the next 2-3 years. So we're good.
I was just going to say on that Booster Gold Blue Beetle, back in the the Giffen DeMatteis run, the Wahaha Justice League, there is I think it's only maybe one issue, it may be 2 issues, and it was around the time that Adam Hughes came on to do the artwork on the book, where Blue Beetle and Booster Gold, I forget the full story, but somehow they come to either managing or owning like this luxury resort on an island, and of course with them hilarity ensues, and somehow Fire and Ice are there because they were kind of like their Lucy and Viv to those two nutty guys. That whatever, I forget that story, but that story of just these superheroes, the kind of like C-list superheroes who luck up into some shenanigans on this resort island, would be insane. That's what. Yeah. There you go, Randy. Cooey. Yes. That's what it was. That would be that would be the boost. I'm telling you, if you haven't read that storyline, that would be a killer. Booster Gold Blue Beetle movie.
Also, too, like I feel as though, at least in recent history, anything playful or colorful, you could still take things that are playful and colorful seriously, but or treat them seriously. But anything colorful and playful is just non-existent in DC's properties, or unless it's a cartoon.
Right.
I mean, I would love to see them kind of.
True.
But it's still kind of, the characters were playful and wonderful. However, it was a violent as hell movie. It still kind of fit in, Tonally, I want them to expand beyond the Trinity, right?
Yeah. So I brought Rob in because he commented Justice League International.
Yeah, I think that would make a great sitcom for WB. In the same vein that WandaVision is a good Disney Plus tentpole for kind of kooky and off the wall. Go retro with Justice League International back in the 80s. Make it a TV show instead of the movies.
That would be cool, because then you could have the conceit is that Batman shows up every once in a while, but you only either see like the back of his head or like just his feet walk into the screen. That's all. That would be dope. This
immediately reminds me of Mark Russell's Wonder Twins, that 12-issue series that you guys should have read, where it touches on all of like they work in the Hall of Justice. However, they only kind of really pass by anybody that's of popularity, and it's all just kind of weaved in and out. The story that happens around it is great. But yeah, sorry.
I want to comment, Randy. I was way behind this morning, so I didn't get a chance to set everything up in time to invite you onto the show. He's out there commenting. He was going to join us for our conversation about, I almost said BVS, the Snyder Cut, but I wasn't able to set that up in time. Sorry, buddy. We love you. All right. There we go. Done. Should we talk about the books?
I guess.
Did you answer, JD? I didn't hear your
No, because I just figured I'll piggyback off of that Booster Gold and Blue Beetle, John. That sounds awesome.
It sounds fun, right?
Yeah, like a fun comedy.
There's some hope for HBO Max opening up stuff though, because like one of the surprise announcements from a couple weeks ago that I think fell off of everyone's radar is that they're adapting Cover by Brian Michael Bendis and David Mack as an adult animated show. Like there's avenues now, and the Snyder Cut kind of reiterates that. Yeah.
Just real quick, you know, when I was trying to think, I was looking at my shelves and I was scanning the shelves and I was thinking, what would I like to see adapted? And like Len had said, there's a bunch of things I would like to see adapted for animation, but with the caveat of animated well. I feel like there are animation studios overseas that when I watch them, the animation is so top notch. There is some anime that I see that is so top notch, and the work is so pristine and gorgeous and kinetic, and it's sometimes it gives me chills because the animation is so good. And is it rarely the case with American animation for me when it comes to like the DC movies, which I do enjoy for the most part, the DC animated cadre. I enjoy them for the most part, but they never quite hit that top tier animated. Okay, it's the difference between, here we go. It's the difference between in the 80s, I would tune in for, let's say, G.I. Joe.
Right.
And there was that amazing intro where everyone's flying around the Statue of Liberty and there's balloons everywhere and there's lens flares happening and the metal looks metal and shiny and everything's really engaging looking. And then you're like, oh shit, this is going to be it. And then the regular show starts and it's like beep, boop, bop, meep, Lady J, no, you know, very, very rudimentary animation. That's the difference. Like, I would like things animated like the beginning of G.I. Joe, and I feel like more often than not we get things that are animated like the actual episodes themselves.
That's a cost issue. I mean, you see that with the comic book covers versus the interiors, right?
Yeah,
true.
Yeah. But the G.I. Joe intro was outsourced overseas by a different animation studio, and then all of the shitty interiors were, I guess, American or whatever.
You're muted. No.
Now it's all outsourced. There's shitty animation overseas.
But you get my point.
No, I get your point.
Yeah.
I will say this. And just another shameless plug a little bit. I was pleasantly surprised, and it's nowhere near on the level what you were talking about as far as animation, but I was pleasantly surprised by the charm that I found watching the new Netflix series Kid Cosmic, because it's totally it's totally like not what you're saying animated wise, but yet it's still very well animated. It fits right in with the universe that it is creating, and it is a fun ass show. I had so much fun sitting for one day just binging the entire series. Just absolutely was enthralled by that show. It was really cool.
I watched one episode of it and I recommend it. I think it's pretty fun.
Yeah.
All right, I'm sorry, let's get on to the books. Bye, Rob. We'll see you in a little bit.
Great being here. Thanks.
All right. What's the book? Let's see. Let me go to my notes. Here we go. Comics Block, Justice League number 59 from DC Comics, written by Brian Michael Bendis and Ram V, with art by David Marquez and Zermanico. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Writer Brian Michael Bendis reunites with artist David Marquez for a new star-studded Justice League featuring Superman, Batman, The Flash, Hawkgirl, Aquaman, Hippolyta, new DC powerhouse Naomi, and is that Black Adam? Superman is leading the charge to reinvent the Justice League, and at the same time, a new cosmic-powered threat arrives from Naomi's homeworld to rule the Earth. And in the backup story, dark days lie ahead for the new Justice League Dark. Zatanna and John Constantine take a road trip only to discover horror around the bend as a friend, and sometime foe, is reborn in fire. A legend is destroyed and another takes a terrible turn as Merlin reveals the beginning of a new, blood-drenched plot for all humankind. So begins writer Ram V's new journey into the abyss with the Justice League Dark and artist Germanico. This was Brian Michael Bendis' book. I did a Thunder Round for it last week which is just a 60-second review. And my review is this is a Bendis book. If you like Brian Michael Bendis, as I 75% of the time do, this is a Brian Michael Bendis Justice League. You get the same sort of dialogue that you either love or hate. You get the very casual nature of said dialogue, which you either love or hate. You get a character that Bendis decided is his new character because he created them and is going to put in everything that he writes because that's his right as a writer, Naomi. And the big bad comes from Naomi's homeworld, his creation. And he throws in a couple of like weird choices, like Black Adam as being part of the Justice League and stuff like that. So I think it's off to a fine start. I definitely am enjoying it more than previous iterations of the Justice League recently. And I love one little thing is that I really miss, despite not giving a crap about Green Arrow, I am really enjoying, I used to really enjoy the Green Arrow Black Canary relationship. And as I was doing my previews orders for my store, I noticed, oh, that's weird. The Green Arrow Black Canary series is going to be coming back in print in trade paperback form. I remember that series. That was a lot of fun.
Chad Winnick.
That's such a strange choice for them to just come back all of a sudden willy-nilly, and lo and behold, the next week, oh, they're in the Justice League again. So I'm hoping we're going to see a return to that relationship. I really enjoyed it. So that's kind of where I sit with Justice League. What'd you think, Len?
The one thing I will say is that the book read fast. Like I found myself like, wait a minute. I'm at the end of the story, the first story already. And spoiler alert, I didn't read the second story. This felt kind of cool. I'm a fan of David Marquez's art, so I enjoyed that for the most part. I don't know whether or not they are, my favorite. They're certainly not my favorite iterations of these characters, but they're well drawn. The page design, the page layout was imaginative when it needed to be, especially when the Aquaman's powers are in use. It was a very nice little 2-page spread of that. Thought was pretty dope. I am a fan of the anti-hero that is Black Adam. I'm a fan of kind of like the reworking of that character, which I kind of like date back to his time when he was fumbling around with the Justice Society back when Jeff Johns was writing that. So I appreciate this. I mean, he's a much handsomer guy than I remember him looking like, but I'm like, all right, that works. I'll flow with that. And I like that part there. I was like, oh, look at all these symbols. I had to piece them together. The bottom two I didn't really pull apart, but it was still kind of cool. Ultimately, I thought this was fun. It felt inviting. It felt like a reboot. It felt like it's maybe a little bit more grounding them, which is where Brian Michael Bendis probably works best in his writing. And it is. I was also a fan of seeing Green Arrow and Black Canary return to the fold. More so Black Canary because I'm a huge Black Canary fan. But I like a well-written Green Arrow, so I'm down with that. And it was fun. It was so slight that I feel like a review I can't give much more because this is more just an intro. Really feels like, despite some action pieces, it's very much an introduction into what is happening. So I can't give it much more than that, but it sounds interesting. I'm down with Naomi. I like the book, so I'm down with her being a part of this story and giving yet another perspective into the group. Green Arrow's bringing another perspective, and so will Naomi. So yeah, I'm down with it.
Yeah, I think we've been inundated with series after series of Justice League that like smacks you over the head like a brick with the gravitas of these people, which I was tired of. And this is more of a, who's bringing the snacks to the next meeting kind of tone, along with the gravitas of these people. So it's I could totally see this as being like a Whiplash, but I did love it. I didn't love the dialogue from the main baddie that's just kind of introduced, but it still kind of worked. This also reminded me about how much I miss actual Green Arrow. So whatever they were doing with him during the New 52 and whatnot, turning him into like working for Amanda Waller and being blah, blah, blah. I was just like, don't you know the origin of Green Arrow? And he actually is literally like the proto warrior for social justice. Like he's a grounded character. Introducing him immediately, kind of arguing that we need younger, fresh perspectives. We don't have all the answers to things, was wonderful. And then having Superman agree with him was my favorite joke of the whole book. It was just like, I hope you guys all know that when Superman agrees with me, none of you matter.
That's right. That was a great line. This was just, I do think that Bendis gets all these characters, and I'm foibles and flaws. This was just like, God, I hate having to reference the Snyder Cut constantly because we're going to do it for like an hour. But it's like, if you are a fan, you will love this. If you're not a fan, you will find reasons to rip it apart. Yep.
That was my whole thing. It's Bendis through and through, whether you love it or hate it. That's my review. A lot of people have already made their decisions on Brian Michael Bendis. Just the fact that he was announced as the writer. Of course, you see all the comment threads are just like, no, I guess I'll drop Justice League now because Brian Michael Bendis ruins everything he touches. I had a back and forth with a gentleman this week actually about this issue because he was just like, oh, he's going to ignore everything that came before. Or no, he did ignore everything that came before, to which I went, well, wait, what did he ignore in this issue that came before? I don't really know what that was. And the only thing the person had to say was that I think there's a problem here with Barry Allen versus Wally West. So for anyone who doesn't know, in Infinite Frontier number 0, about 2 weeks ago, or was it a week ago? Doesn't matter. Barry Allen bequeathed upon Wally West the mantle of the Flash again.
Right.
So he's now Earth's the Flash. Mm-hmm. And in this book, we have a character who, except for the red hair, looks like Barry Allen because he's wearing the what do you call that? Scientist coat?
Dr. Smock.
Dr. Smock. And but they colored him with red hair this
Lab
time.
Coat.
Lab coat, that's the word. And he's actually call him Barry. I can make a call, Barry.
Right.
So I think what happened is not that it was ignored. It was that it was a last minute change, or like maybe they weren't alerted ahead of time that the Flash was going to be changing mantles. So other than that,
on the cover, the Flash is changing mantles, and then also too. Yeah, I think it's this might take place before that. It's literally like he's not even in the book. He's in one panel. Relax, fanboys.
Yeah, exactly. Because I was going to say, because to your point, the cover has this very moody image of what this new Justice League is going to be. Well, I'm not looking at that cover. I'm looking at the cover, the print cover, which has them mostly in silhouette, and the Flash is not there. So I think ultimately the idea is that the Flash is not going to be in this team per editorial edicts. So
mandate, yeah.
And if he's there, and if Barry is still their buddy doing something on the side for them,
Yeah, Barry's not disappearing. He's just going to the totality where he's going to be working on everything with everyone. Like, even if it was Barry in a lab coat, that's continuity appropriate. He's at the Hall of Justice working.
Yeah, he's not dead.
Totality stuff. Yeah,
exactly.
So, again, fanboys, it's okay.
Yeah.
He still has a pass to the clubhouse.
Brian Michael Bendis did not burn your back issues. Relax.
All right. Well, let's move on to Nightwing number 78. And that is, let's see, DC Comics again from Tom Taylor. One of my new favorites, Tom Taylor, with art by Bruno Redondo, who is becoming a favorite of mine. Nightwing is back, baby, and his drive to keep Bloodhaven safe has never been stronger. But his adopted city has elected a new mayor with the last name Zuko. When Nightwing enlists Batgirl's help in investigating the politician bearing the same name as the man who murdered his parents, she unearths details that will shock and fundamentally change the hero. I doubt it. The New York Times bestselling team of writer Tom Taylor of Deceased and Injustice and artist Bruno Redondo, Injustice and Suicide Squad, are about to take Nightwing to the next stage of his evolution as a hero. I was pretty disappointed with the last era of Nightwing. I thought it was a really neat idea that they shot him in the head. KG Beast clipped him in the skull there, and he sort of lost his memory. And I thought, what a neat idea that like everyone's like, we're gonna help you become Dick again, Dick. And he was like, I don't know who Dick is. I don't remember that guy. I'm gonna be an all new thing. And I was like, ooh, all right, this is gonna be real cool. And then it wasn't real cool at all. I was really bored, and I left the book almost immediately. And then I dipped in every so often, and I was like, nope, all right, this still sucks. Don't care. But this issue, Tom Taylor was coming back, and I was hyped as hell. And I think with good reason. Once I was finished this book, I was very, very excited to read the next issue. I'm excited where Nightwing is currently, which is just feels like classic Nightwing. He's there in Bloodhaven. He's got his blue and black on. No mullet, sadly, to speak of. But and also the fact that they're reintroducing the Zucca family, I thought was pretty cool. I'm in. I'm on board. What did you think, Noel?
This is the first time in history that I've got a Nightwing book on my pull list. This was great. This was straight great. It had a lot of allusions to Hawkeye's regrouping or reimagining, right? Like Hawkeye by Aha and Fraction. It's got a little bit of that kind of like playful retconning that doesn't actually retcon. It's just a perspective shift, and it's just really wonderful. Also, they kick puppies in this book. I love kicking puppies.
Oh my God, is there anything more satisfying than kicking a puppy?
I know. You just see a puppy and you want to punt it.
Taking a dark turn.
there is a
That's my superhero designation, the puppy punter.
It's only dark if you don't like punting puppies. You know what podcast you're on? No, this was a beautiful book. It was funny. It was incredibly well drawn. The action was engaging. This was my favorite book of the week. It's executed at the level of a big hero book. Like this is the kind of creative team and execution that you usually see on a Batman relaunch, a Superman relaunch, or whatnot. Like this was. I'm not used to Nightwing getting this much creativity.
We've gone on this show about, I think the majority of us loving Tom Taylor, maybe all of us, I just don't remember B's read on the guy. And we've mentioned Bruno Redondo on here. I love his art on Injustice, loved him on Suicide Squad, and love his art on here. But I'm going to take a little bit of time first now to throw a bone to Adriano Lucas, who is the colorist of this book. Because as fantastic as this art is, and it is good, it is the coloring, which now in 21st century comics, and JD, I know you'll agree with this, is what fills in, is what brings the art truly to life.
Yeah.
That is what can make or break great art. And the coloring in this book, the atmosphere that Adriano Lucas sets from scene to scene is absolutely spot on and sometimes breathtaking. From the two-page spread that you had up there earlier, JD, which was the intro to the book, to the meeting between the mayor and Blockbuster, like on the street under just the lights of the city, or what are just illuminating them. This is a gorgeous fucking comic book. And then go to another two-page spread with just the synchronicity of the writing, the artwork, and the acting in the artwork. And right there in that two-page spread, JD, read my mind, that two-page spread where Dick Grayson is reading this letter from Alfred that was left to him, as Barbara Gordon sits there and just slowly moves in behind him as he reads it along, and you feel the emotion of the words, and you can feel it welling up in Dick as he's reading this touching letter from Alfred. Marry that with the backdrop and the colors that bring that scene, the sentimentality of that scene, like to life. You said this was one of your comic book of the week. No,
Yeah.
This may easily be one of the 5 best comic books I've read this year. This was beautiful artwork. I was a fan of Nightwing back when Nightwing was one of the last regular comic books that I collected from month to month, back when Chuck Dixon was writing Nightwing. So that goes how far back that was. But if this team keeps up on it, I'm not going back to monthlies, but this may be the DC book that I start collecting in trades on a regular basis, because this was gorgeous. This was gorgeous.
Right?
Absolutely
Man,
agree.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah.
I'm gonna support monthlies for you, so this doesn't get canceled.
There you go.
Me too.
Thank you. So the two of us will keep this book going. And you mentioned that he's got it's funny. I was feeling a little bit. When you said Hawkeye, that I said, oh, I do see that. But I was feeling, especially when he shoots a rope from one of his batons, I was feeling very Daredevil-ish in this a little bit.
It's a little bit of both, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Like just the way that they grid it out, almost like directions. I'm like, oh, that's super Aja. But Nightwing is a playful Daredevil, isn't he?
He is. Oh no, he is. He is. And they're both chick magnets. So yeah.
Yeah, over here with the dog, the dog biting him. Oh, this is such a wonderful book.
I know.
This is going to be something that when this is collected, or even just this run is going to be something that I do feel like it's going to be something we go back and say, well, have you don't like Nightwing. Have you ever read Tom Taylor's run?
Yep.
If I'm ever going to get into Nightwing, where should I start? Like here.
Yeah.
Just
they also
here.
do. The artist does a really nice little thing that growing up as a Spider-Man fan, there's something about this sort of panel that I gravitated towards, and that is the character is moving so fast that there are after images of him, and you can watch him bouncing from person to person as he does these aerobatics. Very cool.
And you know what?
I agree.
Real quick, I was at JD's store this weekend when I was picking up my Superman Batman Generations, and we got into a fun conversation about artists that can draw kids. And this book opens up with a flashback to a young Dick Grayson, and I think we're meant to believe that that's a young Barbara Gordon as well. I don't know.
Yeah, it is.
But I think it's kind of cool how, while it's not a little Dick Grayson, it definitely is a younger Dick Grayson, and he feels like a young Dick Grayson. Mm-hmm. You could see that character growing into the Dick Grayson that Redondo draws later in the book. And then again, there's a lovely page with him and Alfred in there as well. And you see a younger Alfred, which I actually appreciated as well. This just, oh my God.
I was upset when they killed Alfred, but I really am enjoying. So in comic books, everyone comes back. Sure. In order to, sometimes in stories, the best way to articulate how important someone is to literally show the whole. So when Captain America died, we all knew he was coming back, but there was about 25 issues of the main title that was the whole rest of the cast trying to do what they could to fill the hole. And that was what was important about that story. It's not the fact that he died and came back. It was highlighting all of these other side characters because of their relation to Captain America, the hole that exists when he's gone. And that's what they're doing with Alfred across all the books. Mm-hmm. And that's more important than just having someone in a cave. Yeah. I really like this kind of era of post Alfred.
Ditto. Yeah. I got emotional during that scene with the letter. I thought that was great. Oh, also, kind of fun juxtaposition towards the Batman series, which is currently going on by James Tynion IV, wherein Batman has lost all of his money, but because Alfred is also rich, Dick, he left all of his money to Dick, and so Dick now rich, and Bruce is poor.
Well, I mean rich
so
with
they
a
tell
little
us.
R, right?
What's that?
Rich with a little R, like millions, not billions.
Yeah. Although we have yet to actually see that in the Batman book. They keep telling us that he doesn't have any money, and yet he just put in, he had to adjust his Batmobile because his brand new engine was too big for it or some shit. So,
well, it was
Right.
that was just totally misrepresented in the book. It was the fact that he took all the tech out because he couldn't afford smaller versions of it to get a better engine. So he's just like, I don't have this anymore. I don't have this anymore. I don't have this anymore because I needed more horsepower.
I see. That works. I'll take it. All right, let us move on to the kookiest book of the week. Holy cats. Ultra Mega. So James Herron is a talent that I took note of maybe 10 years ago, I think, with a book called Rumble by John R. Cootie. And it is a modern fantasy kind of series, and the art in it was so new and vibrant and fresh, and the style was so interesting to me that I just immediately gravitated towards that artist and went Googling him and just really liked James Herron's artwork. So much so that when I started to see Daniel Warren Johnson, who did Woman, Death Metal, and what was the other one? Murder Falcon. I saw that guy and I went, oh, this guy also likes James Herron, because I felt like they were very simpatico. But now I'm very excited. James Herron is back and he's writing and drawing a book called Ultra Mega, #1 from Image Comics. Diamond has this to say about it. A cosmic plague has spread, transforming everyday people into violent, monstrous kaiju. Only the Ultra Mega, 3 individuals imbued with incredible powers, hold the line against the madness. Their battles level cities and leave untold horror in their wake. Now the final reckoning approaches for the Ultra Mega. But is this a war they can even win? Fight monsters and stand with humanity in this new skybound original from the greatest artist of his generation, James Herron of Rumble and BPRD, and Eisner award-winning colorist Stewart. Each issue is extra-sized with a 60-page debut that can barely contain its giant heroes, creatures, and devastation. Register pitch, which I've never seen before. The high-impact adventure of Extremity, but with the kaiju-esque monster action scenes of Pacific Rim. I woke up this morning to read this before the show, even though it was the thing I was looking forward to most this week. And holy shit, it is bonkers, man. It is super fun and disgusting and interesting. And I am 43 years old. So even though I grew up in a time where I think kaiju was at its peak, Godzilla's and Ultraman and all of these giant dudes towering and destroying cities while fighting each other, it was never a subgenre that I actually engaged in. I never cared about it. And so I saw that James Herron was doing this book and I went, oh, it's a kaiju book, but I don't give a shit. It's James Herron. And I think this brings a new level to, I think, those kaiju pastiche. It's a lot of fun, but it also has a lot of heart and some family drama and loss and grief and stuff like that. I just think this was excellent. I 100% love this book. I can't wait to read more of it. And even if there were no words in this goddamn book, I would stare at it for a long time.
You would. I know you would.
Oh, holy cats, man. This is such a great first issue. What did you guys think, Len?
This was bonkers. This was an insane comic book. I told you, JD, this felt like if Quentin Tarantino had written like the Ultraman movie. That's what this was, man. This was incredibly bananas. And in that regards, it is fun. It is engaging. It is a different look at, kaiju media, which I am a huge fan of. There definitely is a Ultraman pastiche in it. It does have some real world, drama mixed in it. It does eerily have a heart to it. I think it begs a repeat reading so that you can get more engrossed in the story because you may just initially be grossed out by the art.
What?
This you do not want to eat this. Why don't read this on an empty stomach? This is it's intense. It's intense comic book reading, but it is, at the end of the day, it is fun. I'm just going to say it's a lot of fun. And talking about something that I would love to see fully animated in its adult glory. Oh my God. I haven't felt this overwhelmed in a pleasant way by a comic book since the old days of Jeff Darrow's Hard Boiled. This was big fun. I enjoyed this a lot.
Big fun.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
I don't think I have much to add. This was just so fucking metal. It was awesome. I loved it. Loved every second of it. Just breaking down story, they accomplished so much in this one issue to the point where as soon as you understand the status quo, they
flip it,
reverse it, smack it on its ass. No, they flip it and just like start a new story.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is an incredibly fast-moving, nothing is safe kind of comic, and it's wonderful. I've been watching kaiju stuff my whole life, and I've never seen anything kind of approached in this body horror / almost Junji Ito kind of way, and it's awesome. This is just awesome.
Even a little tiny detail is we've got this sort of, he's just a regular guy. I think he used to be a boxer?
Yeah, boxer. Yeah.
And then he was unemployed, or then he was a janitor. And then because of technology getting too advanced, they just hired a robot cleaner to take his job. And so he's just sort of unemployed and kind of a schlub, right? Like not of his own making. Like he's a good dude, right?
Yeah, right. The way that the big bad of this issue, and maybe for the whole series, it's not really clear how that big bad is created is so imaginative. What happens with all that? Like this could have just been an OGN. This was a lot of story just slammed in. This was great.
Yeah, and to be fair, people, there's a lot of story, but it's got a lot of room. It's a 66-page comic book, so
it's a perfect bound big boy.
But Mars Comics had said it was sold out everywhere. I've got 2 copies here.
Yeah, I got more copies in before they sold out. But to finish my point, the tiny little detail of he shrinks down. I have the page up here. He shrinks down from becoming Ultra Mega to his regular, and of course he's naked, and his head has not adjusted to his regular body size. So he's got his normal body, and then just his head is ginormous. And she's like, it'll fix itself eventually. It takes a while. I just like the idea of like becoming normal again is also part of a process that doesn't always go very smoothly.
Exactly. Yeah. It's
and there's some like weird real life questions I'd never asked. So like these 3 people have been imbued with the power to become Ultra Megas. And the one dude was laying in bed with his 5-year-old when he got imbued with it. And they're like, they all apologize to him and give him condolences. Like whatever this process was killed his child, and whatever this process was did something to the other guy. Like this is not a gift at all in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
It's wild. This is wild.
That was my question, though, and thank you for bringing that up. That he had mentioned that he was in bed with his 5-year-old son, and they show him post, I guess, conversation with the otherworldly being that gave him his powers, and he's covered in blood. His whole bedroom is covered in blood. But like when the other guy wakes up, he's just on his couch and he's totally fine. So I don't know why this guy is covered in like what happened to him that his child is crushed.
I don't know.
I don't know. I think it
was like a surge.
That's what I think. It's like just the way that it happened. Is just that impactful. It's crazy. I mean, there is some ambiguity to that there, but at the end of the day, it was just a very fucking traumatic thing that happened, and it has affected him how he uses the Ultra Mega power. And like you said, and like Noel said, that's real world shit. As insane as this is, that it does take the moment to ask those real world questions, and you're like, huh, yeah, you know, it's just so thoughtful. You know, that means that it's not just all bombast. You know, this is the difference between this comic book and something like Nonstop Spider-Man, which, to be fair, it's only like 20-something pages, but it is nonstop. This book is just as nonstop, but it's a better story. It still takes the time to give you 2 panels about dude's head shrinking. You know, it does take the time to still kind of like involve you into who he was before. Very shorthand. You know, that he was a boxer, and he was he was a janitor, lost his job and everything like that. Very shorthand. And then when the action rivets up, it knows it's going to be like boom, 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 boom. It's just a lot more thoughtfully well-crafted book. And it's why this was what made way more fun than Nonstop Spider-Man.
Yeah, agreed. And I mean, just James Herron's art versus, I mean, I like Chris Bachalo for certain things, but I do find there is an issue there with his artwork where his foregrounds and his backgrounds blend, and it's hard to see what's going on because they're so busy.
Right.
But somehow, like, as busy as James Herron's layouts are and so packed with detail, I never have trouble reading it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, that is this week's books, guys. We did it. It was a great for comic books. I was really excited about all the things I read. If you like this show and like hanging out with us, we only do it because out of the love of, just because of the love of the game. And if you want to help us out, go to patreon.com/JohnnyDestructo and help out the podcast. It helps things get us microphones and lighting, and maybe pay for some books to read, to review. So, yeah. That would be great if you could help us out. If you can't help us out, that is absolutely fine. Share, like, comment, subscribe, do all those things just to help us out a little bit. Leave us a review on iTunes if that's your jam. YouTube.com/CultPopGo. You can find us there every Sunday morning at 10:30 a.m. where we review the week's comic books. We also do Thunder Rounds throughout the week, which are just 60-second recorded and edited videos where we review books. And Tuesdays at 2:00 I go live from my comic book store, Johnny Destructo's Hero Complex, to do unboxing videos and go take you through all of the different books, action figures, statues, and graphic novels that I have coming in this week. And that's a lot of people actually have told me they set the alarm while they're at work and they put me on in the background, and it feels like they have a friend with them at work, which is just awesome. What a nice thing to hear. And you can email us at cultpopgo@gmail.com. Two of our good friends of the show did this week. We love hearing from all of you. Thank you so much. And let's get on to the SNYDER Cut. Justice League came out a couple years ago, part of the DC Snyderverse, to not great reviews, I'm going to be honest. It was kind of lambasted, even more so than I think a lot of the Snyder movies have also lambasted. This was to the nth degree. And there was a situation with Zack Snyder and a terrible, terrible tragedy in his family while he was making the Justice League film that he had visioned, and a good portion of it was finished, but he wound up leaving the production, not just because of what happened in his family, but also because he said he was tired of fighting. He just didn't have it in him anymore to fight the studio to make the movie he wanted to make, and he wound up just leaving the production and said, peace out, Holmes, and Holmes, smell you later. And the studio wound up getting Joss Whedon, and I thought in my heart of hearts, oh, what an excellent choice. I grew up loving Joss Whedon. I love the Avengers movies, and I love what he's done to varying degrees, but mostly I enjoy Joss Whedon, and he came in and put his spin on it and produced what I would call a Frankenscience version of the Justice League that felt inconsistent. I think there were good and bad things for that movie. I think Snyder brought some good and bad. I thought Joss Whedon brought some good and bad. But overall, the experience of the dichotomy of those two very different directors trying to engage each other in storytelling just failed. What?
It's the Scroll, a review in 6 parts.
Oh, funny. So then we have, Zack Snyder's Justice League. Thanks to the toxic fan bros, the Snyder bros, who were like, even if it's a My Little Pony thing on the internet, they'd be like, release the Snyder Cut. And it's like, guys, this is a Wendy's. Fucking relax. But they got what they wanted. And here we are. Snyder went back and he produced what was going to be a longer movie, but then was going to be a 6-part miniseries, but then went back to being just a super long movie for some reason.
I think that was contractual, right? Like I heard rumblings that was mainly like so all these people in the movie were contracted specifically for a film, changing the parameters of that contract in order to make it 6 episodes across a different channel. It would be a whole thing. So it was really just like it has to be released in one clip. Yeah.
There's also still the desire to bring it out in the movie theaters when movie theaters become a thing again.
Yeah. So yeah, it's out. It happened. We all watched it. It's 4 hours and change. And, my personal thing was, I don't care for Zack Snyder's version of his Superman. His Superman is not a Superman that I find to be, accurate. But it's a different world. It's a multiverse where different things happen, and maybe your Superman it looks like a horrifying sociopath anytime he's on screen, and that's fine. That's fine for people who like that sort of thing. So that said, I was curious. What I wanted to happen was Zack Snyder to be able to finish his vision, because he was hired to do a thing and then sort of was cut off at the kneecaps from finishing that thing, right? Mostly because of bad reviews and the studio got nervous. But I was excited for this gentleman to come back in and sort of do the thing that he was promised. Mm-hmm. And I think that it is long, but it is better than the Joss Whedon cut. I think it's a little too long. I think is the phrase navel-gazy. Is that what I want to say? What's that line from the... There's a line from Family Guy where he says, it insists upon itself. Yes. And someone goes, what the fuck does that even mean? But for some reason, that nonsense phrase makes sense to me with regards to this. I think there is some really, really good stuff in here. I think that this is a much more fun and involved experience than the Joss Whedon cut. I really did appreciate a lot of the stuff that was put back in, like the cyborg stuff, which I think is kind of the heart of the whole piece. Mm-hmm. And I was really pleasantly surprised by all of that. Mm-hmm. And I think if we had a perfect version of this movie, it would be a lot of the Snyder stuff with a little sprinkling of some of the Joss Whedon stuff that he brought in, some of the characterization, a little bit of the humor. And I think that would be the perfect version of this movie. But overall, I think it was fun and a nice experiment. And the worst part of it, and the part that I keep wishing wasn't even there, was the epilogue nightmare scene with the Joker, but we will get to that later. Rob Patey.
Hi.
Previous co-host of the Spoiler Alert podcast. Welcome. Thank you for joining us again. What did you think of the Snyder Cut?
So many thoughts. Should have been 2 movies from the outset. We do this these days. All right, no, easy. We do this these days with everything. Harry Potter was a 2-part ending. If you need to tell 4 hours worth of story, which I believe they do, I believe they needed more time, because what Snyder is ultimately trying to do is set the stage for the 4th world. And those who are into comics will know what the 4th world is. Jack Kirby, the genius of comic books, it took 20 years for the 4th world to stick in comics. I mean, when Jack originally moved over from Marvel to DC, the man fell into a deep depression because after a year, it wasn't enough time to draw the story out, and everybody became nervous Nellies. Darkseid is your end point. He is not your beginning point. And I think that's been the fundamental problem with the entire Snyderverse from Man of Steel through to Justice League. Was that plan to have Darkseid be the ultimate villain? It was too fast, too rushed, and I believe it was just a reactionary to Thanos being in the Marvel Universe. And I put that squarely on the cowardice and the idiocy of Warner Brothers executives. And, we were deep in the Ain't It Cool review time during when all these shenanigans were going on. We were getting all the press releases. We were getting all the blarg becomes the new vice president of Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
And I would go and look at blarg on LinkedIn and go, what the sweet shit sticks. This person can look at a spreadsheet, but knows fuck all about comic books. And that right there derails everything when you got a guy like Kevin Feige who knows the business and knows the books running things at Marvel. This was all of this a perfect shitstorm.
Too many cooks. Too many cooks.
Too many cooks, but a person who is an auto mechanic
In the
coming
kitchen.
in to become a cook.
Yeah.
In the kitchen.
I was gonna say it's too many accountants in the kitchen. It's not even
Nice.
There you go.
Nice.
It's not even a cook, right?
Well done.
Right.
That's great. But the movie itself, what did you think?
It was fine. It was infinitely better than the Whedon cut.
Yeah.
Because he had 4 freaking hours to make a movie. A million monkeys typing into infinity will eventually produce Shakespeare. And voila, we have the Snyder Cut.
Thank you, Douglas Adams.
Word up.
No.
I pretty much agree. It's like it's mildly faint praise to say it's better than the theatrical version because it's a wildly low bar, especially when you apply 2.5 hours more footage to make your story make more sense. It's like, well, yeah, it has to be better. If it's not, then what are you just filming grass growing? Like, yeah, it's more story. It makes more sense. It's better. I think I'd put if the theatrical version was like a D, this is like a C plus. I hate that it had to be 4 hours in order to make sense. I still from jump don't love this depiction of Superman. Actually, that was one of my biggest notes. Yeah, this movie's better, but how the characters in this world respond to Superman's death still doesn't jive with how he was depicted in 2 other movies / 6 other hours of media with him involved. Like, yeah. I don't know where that circle was squared off screen, but it's you're starting your movie from an inorganic story point, and it just everything else is off balance, right? Yeah. And everyone that says it was in there, no, you're applying it because just taking from what was on screen with Superman, no, it wasn't. From the beginning, he was wrapping tractor trailers around poles in fits of anger. Like, no, it was fine. I don't know if you guys want to play a game later after Len gives his overall. I took notes the whole time because I didn't know if I was going to be able to sit down and watch it in one clip, just like random notes, and then went back to look at them. And I want to share some of the excerpts, and you tell me what scene it was.
Sure.
More than anything else, I appreciated the Cyborg story.
Yeah.
Yeah, this needed to be 2 movies, but not this movie sliced in 2, because there's no natural end point at all. This is one movie. It needed to be more movies to establish these characters, so you had a shorthand for them in a movie like this. Yeah. The Avengers took 5 movies to get to, and they all were focused on. So by the time it got to all of them in a room, you have shorthand for all of these characters and their motivations. Yeah. You can't do that in 2 hours. You could barely do it in 3 hours. 4 hours seems to be the magic number, being able to give everyone functional motivations when you have 7 main characters. Yeah. That's not sustainable. I'm not going to go to the movies for a 4-hour masterpiece.
Right.
Well, and the other thing is that you're not looking at it through the lens of people who are not as ingrained in comics as we are, right? We all know comic books, so our minds are filling in a lot of holes as we watch these films. And I'll say the same thing for Batman vs. Superman. Starting with The Dark Knight Returns, and then that callback that Joker does at the end of this to killing Robin, that has no gravitas for somebody who has not read a shit ton of comic books and remembers A Death in the Family from the 80s, right? It just doesn't hold the same, it does not hold the same weight for your casual film goer, where the Marvel movies can appeal to both audiences, can appeal to those of us that are steeped in the religion of comics and those that are merely cursory fans that go and watch it in the films.
Yeah, you're right. We're so deep into it that I didn't even make the connection that, like, he does make reference to killing his partner, but that's only in reference to, for just a moviegoer, that's only in reference to a statue as an Easter egg in the background of a scene 2 movies ago.
Correct.
Right?
Okay, right,
but you're right. You're right.
But also to the casual listener or viewer, even the most casual of viewers, seeing somebody talk to Batman and reference their partner, they're going to think a Robin. They may not be thinking the Robin that he killed, but they're going to think of a Robin because that is historically the partner of Batman. In regards to this film, I got a couple quick little notes and then we can get deep into it. Sure, this could have been 2 movies. I argue that this could have been maybe just still the 1 movie. If you just, put the 1 hour of slow motion in real time, then you'd have 1 movie. So I would argue you can still, it doesn't take 1 minute for Lois Lane to walk down the street with 2 cups of coffee. Only if you do it in super slow mo with, some choir singing over her walking or whatever the fuck. But first of all, my first thought is I want you guys to return with me to the glorious years of the 80s, which I have returned to recently in my rewatching of one of the greatest cop shows of all time, Hill Street Blues, which is streaming all 7 seasons on Hulu. And I have been enjoying it fantastically. But the one thing that I cannot escape from this rewatching of this series from the 80s is that because it was made in the 80s, it is streaming with bars on the sides of it because of the aspect ratio of televisions back in the 80s. That's just the way they did things, so that's the way it has to stream now. I'm fine with it. My eyes adjusted. Now we bring to Zack Snyder's Justice League, which begins with a message from Warner Media letting us know that for the sake of the artistic integrity of Zack Snyder, this film will now be shown for 4 hours in the aspect ratio of Hill Street Blues from the 1980s. Are you out of your fucking mind?
IMAX is taller.
Get the fuck out of here. I get the fuck.
This isn't IMAX. It's my TV.
Get the fuck out of here. That's bullshit. I'm sorry. I am sorry. I read an article where it was all about the IMAX and he fell in love with the taller and all this other Watanabe bullshit. Get the fuck out of here. And if you're going to do something in the IMAX, then god damn it, it better be something on the screen that looks IMAX worthy. And while I will argue that the scene of Bruce Wayne walking with his horse across all these mountaintops to make his way to Aquaman maybe looks like your traditional, that would be grand in IMAX. There is nothing else in this film that screams that it needs to be IMAX. Certainly not the green screen of Themyscira where people are just sliding around, not even looking like they're in real space or time of fighting this big, I will admit, better rendered Steppenwolf in this film. Get the fuck out of here with that aspect ratio shit.
Yeah.
That being said, is this better than 2017's? Sure, it's a better story. Is the heart returned to the movie by putting in more of the cyborg story? Sure. And now you can understand why Ray Fisher, despite what may have gone on behind the scenes, was pissed about this movie because all of his work was cut out. Yeah. You know, he basically became a plot device in this movie, and the real plot device that should have been was kept, which was Superman, because he is only just a gun in this movie. That is all he is.
That's true.
He's better loaded in this one. I'll give him that, but he at the end of the day is a gun. Yeah. There's a lot of this movie that doesn't make any sense. While it's better than 2017's version, it is still, I argue, not a good movie. And it's just, unfortunately, slowly more of it.
Yeah. I definitely agree with the slow motion stuff. If you could get rid of a lot of that slow motion, which just feels so ponderous, it doesn't really need to be there. I think Noel had said something like, I don't know what burger he's talking about, but he said he timed it. There was 30 seconds of someone reaching for a burger, which I don't remember. All I remember are hot dogs. Like, I remember hot dogs in the creepy Bart Allen scene, or I'm sorry, the creepy Barry Allen scene where, for some reason, a woman's life is in peril. She's about to get, she's in the middle of a car accident. She's about to die horribly. And while saving her, he stops to caress her face. This strange woman he's never spoken to and actually never speaks any lines in the film.
Nope.
I thought that was kind of creepy and weird. I think that whole Flash sequence didn't need to even be in there. It does nothing to further the plot of the film. It doesn't even tell us his origin story. It's just, he needs a job. Pretty lady, touch your face, you're saved.
Touch her face, touch a hot dog.
Yeah.
And then you're saved. You can't forget that part.
That's true. He does take the minute to get the hot dog before actually saving her. That's true. Yeah. That's very true, Rob. You make a good point there.
He is heavily on the spectrum.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was an interesting choice.
So, the 40 seconds, the 39.59 seconds of reaching for a hamburger, that's what precipitates the car accident. The
garbage guy
drops a burger.
Oh, that's right.
Oh,
so long, like Austin Powers screaming no from the steamroller. Long.
You know what?
I went back and timed it, like dropping the burger. Not even dropping the burger, from the first reach for it. 40 seconds of movie.
Yeah.
It wasn't just the burger. At one point, there's this white thing falling down for probably 25 seconds.
A drop of mayo or something. Yeah, it's like a CGI dollop of mayo.
Yeah.
It was a seed. From
it looked like a tooth.
Oh.
Yeah, it was the seed. I think it was the seed. You're right. Yeah. You're right.
This was wildly indulgent for no reason.
Randy says, I love you guys, but the decision to have the four same opinions on the show is soft. I commented there was no decision made besides, Noel and I had sort of like went back and forth and sort of talked about it. I don't know any of the other guys' points of view on points of view on the movie. No decision was like, let's just get all the same opinion. I think that's just what happened.
And we don't have the same opinion because I don't think, because y'all all for the most part said that the movie was fine. I don't think the movie is fine. I think it's a piece of self-indulgent dirge of a film. Like, why does Wonder Woman, every time she lifts an eyebrow, there has to be a music sting for every goddamn thing she does? I mean, I like Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman as much as a lot of people, but everything she does not need a music sting. She doesn't need, like, when she walks, doesn't need a music sting. There doesn't need to be, like, how many choirs is he employed in this movie? Like, everything is like
literally one on screen. They sing like an Icelandic tune while Aquaman is swimming away for like I don't know, 2 full
I
minutes.
have a theory on that. I believe that was an entire fertility ceremony because the musk of Aquaman can induce ovulation.
I see.
Right. So that was a whole fertility ceremony thing in that Icelandic region.
I think the music, one of the most egregious, besides the slow-mo, I think one of the most egregious things in this film is the soundtrack. Like the musical choices are so cringe-inducing to absolutely laughable. I think I don't want to shit on this film as much as we are. I think this was an experience for me for the most part. I think I really enjoyed it. I went from, kind of hating it to being like, oh man, this is kind of fun. I'm enjoying this. Is a fun experience as a nerd to sit down and watch 4 hours of these characters and they're interacting and all that sort of stuff.
I actually liked the score. Hang on. I liked the folding in Superman's theme from this universe and the actual music cues that they use at the end that is the Justice League music cue. Like it's folding in the orchestral of the 5 of them, and then they kind of bring in all that percussion from the Superman theme. That was straight fire. That was awesome. I've watched that scene 3 or 4 times because that score was great. Every time that they did stupid guitar riffs for them walking through a room, it's the most edgelord bullshit I've ever seen in a blockbuster film. I hated every second of it, and it was only ever interrupted by the weird chorus, like the choral of every time that she just like walked into a room. Also, it was so when she. I don't want to. The design of this movie is so weird. Like the costume design of this movie is so weird too because she's working in the Louvre, right? I mean,
white pantsuit, wasn't she?
It wasn't a white pantsuit. No. One, we saw her in the 80s. By 2021 or 2017, when this movie takes place, we are left to believe that she has not learned how to pull her punch to the point where she is not smashing someone's head into a wall and leaving it caved open and leaving all this blood strewn all over the place, and can't take out somebody. The only way to take out a dude is by the overkill of clanging her bracelets together and blowing out the entire room with all of these kids still there.
When
she
that
hasn't
little girl
developed that skill yet.
When that little girl wouldn't stand up, I was just like, I'd be fucking frightened as well. Like this woman just like manhandled, murdered, splattered their blood everywhere, and exploded the side of the wall. Like I don't know what
she couldn't stand up onto the police herself. That's why.
Yeah. It misses the mark, just like everything else in this, right? Just misses the mark. The next one, actually, I do have to just give her money. Like, as an audience member, as a viewer of a movie, when they telegraphed things, it took 4 seconds of seeing this waitress collect change to know, okay, Hero Man put money in her account.
Right.
We sit with it for over a minute and a half of watching her struggle to the point where she's on the ground crying at an eviction notice. It's the weird indulgence that is completely unnecessary just to watch human suffering or something. It was a very odd choice.
Well, and Cyborg also has one of the weirdest user interfaces into the net of anybody I've ever seen, right? I mean, that's an interesting way to be able to talk to computers.
And I actually, it is interesting. While I would have liked for it to have maybe a slightly different, for lack of a better word, filter on it to just get to kind of like just break it off a little bit more from reality. I like the idea of him just being in like this dimension type of thing. I kind of like that. But yeah, it is way too self-indulgent. That's where you need an editor to just say, all right, thank you, Zack. Now let me work.
Yeah, a little bit. And you know what, too, like that, I think that goes back to the whole point of this, or not the whole point, but the whole problem with this everything but the kitchen sink style of release the Snyder Cut, the original version. He still could have used an edit. You know?
Yeah.
Like, still could use it. Also, hey, baby. Hi. I mean, that's 5 opinions now. I'm assuming Kai watched it. How did you feel about it?
because according to Parker, the Zack Snyder Justice League cut sucks. So let's go.
Okay. The one of the other ones that I want to bring up, and this is a nitpick, but are Jim Gordon's messages written on wet rags? You guys know what I'm talking about, right? I pulled I pulled up a screenshot of it too because it was just like, Jim, here's your messages, and what?
Yeah,
Like, is it papyrus?
Yeah.
Like, what's happening?
It's
I understand that Gotham's not well funded, but still.
Yeah. It's a very moist police precinct.
Yeah, I mean, they need some dehumidifiers in that bitch if it's that like wet everywhere.
Yeah.
No one's hair stays up. Like, it's just a terrible place to work.
Also, what a great commissioner where he takes all of his important messages and immediately throws it in the garbage. You see Michael Scott? Oh, these go into the important bin, and he just throws them in the trash.
The other British Dolphins. How you guys feel about that?
Oh, I mean, British Dolphins, is that from the nightmare at the end where all of a sudden Mira has a ridiculous accent?
Oh, that's the whole movie. She has a ridiculous accent, but the way that they it's interesting seeing the Aquaman movie after this. This should have been the original version of how they communicate and how they're depicted. They're just dolphin noise trilling to each other, and then in a bubble they have British accents.
Oh, that didn't bother me. I kind of thought that was kind of neat. I didn't notice that, and I don't think that happened in the Joss Whedon cut. But I thought that was kind of neat that they would like speak as sea life speak to each other while they're underwater, because it's not like you could just be like, you know, and understand each other.
That part was super cool, but then as soon as it was just like a really thick British accent, I was like, what?
Yeah, that was weird.
British Dolphins?
Yeah.
Yeah, but see, me, I was wondering. I guess the physics of it, when they open their mouth, there's water rushing in their mouth, but they're built for this. Like, to me, they should be able to talk in the water. Like, right. I didn't understand why they needed to be into a bubble.
They should be talk the Queen's English.
Well, that too, Rob, you're right. The English, I mean, look, man,
it was weird.
That's a movie trope, man. Almost every time you go to a different planet, you know, they've got like some type of British accent. That's what movies do.
Yeah, this is
I mean, I look at it
nitpicking. Yeah.
I look at it from the lens of look at it from Beauty and the Beast, right? The live action Beauty and the Beast. Mm-hmm. They're in France, but everybody's got a British accent. Yeah. But then you've got two pieces of Tupperware that speak in French accents.
Right.
That's funny, yeah.
That's called a continuity of character. A couple of really quick ones that kind of like tossed me off.
Sure.
Home for the Emotionally Troubled, Arkham Home. Mm-hmm. Did you guys see that sign?
Yeah.
I've never seen it referred to that at all. Is that like an ableist thing, or they don't like to say asylum or insane anymore? Like, I didn't get the choice.
Well, I know they don't say criminal on it anymore, but I don't know. Who knows? I don't know.
It was just really weird. Like, I read it really fast and then paused it. I was like, Arkham Home? Troubled?
Yeah. That's neat. Okay.
No transitions, but wasn't the ship busted at the end? Like when the carrier ship comes to pick them all up, I'm like, didn't you crash that shit? Did you explode it and crash that shit?
No, he didn't crash it.
My question at the end of that was,
he violently landed into a building.
His Bruce's his project, the entire movie is, I got to get this thing up and running. No one's been able to get it up and running, and I'm going to get it up and running. It is a troop carrier. We need this troop carrier. Dog, why? There's 7 of you. Just get an SUV would work just fine. You don't need a troop carrier.
I think the army's pretty much figured it out. I think they have that. Yeah.
That's true.
I mean, to be fair, wasn't the Batmobile in it?
Yeah, his car.
Yeah.
It was for his car.
I just thought that was funny.
I will say something that I really, really did like. I liked the main climax. The Barry.
Barry, yes.
Back in time.
So
wonderful.
So in the original movie, we had that like Russian family that no one cared about that Joss Whedon sort of put in there for no good reason.
Made no sense.
It was, then they were like cringeworthy, awful. So I'm glad that we got rid of those. And then at the end, we had Cyborg trying to separate prevent the unity from happening, and he fails. And I was actually legit surprised by that. And the fact that Barry just had a throwaway line earlier where he's like, if I, when he was getting ready to activate the mother box to resurrect Superman, he goes, if I run super fast, to a certain extent, it messes with time a little bit. And I like that he purposely has to do that at the very end of the film to sort of like Superman fly around the earth in reverse time in order to prevent the unity from happening. Although why Superman didn't help before that, he was just too busy walloping what's his nuts in the chest to like help with the actual world-ending problem. That's fine. But
the whole thing with the gotta break the rule and how they depicted it all was and also too, there's another part too where the score changed to give Barry for the first time in the movie like his own little theme, and it was really nice. And then they looped it into the Justice League. There are pieces of this movie that are wonderful, but they are encapsulated in such dour, gray, odd character motivations that they're hard to cheer for.
Speaking of gray, you know how Zack Snyder is constantly mocked for the fact that there's like hardly any color in his movie? Well, now he's finally going to get what he wants, which is the Justice is Gray Snyder Cut, which is he's going to re-release it all in black and white. Yeah. Just what you want.
Hey, why the black suit?
There's no reason for the black suit. There's absolutely none.
When I saw that there were images of him in the black suit for the Snyder Cut, I was like, oh, okay, there must have been a sequence where they engaged the black suit from the comic books, which is specifically designed to help Superman, who has now been under the in the ground for however long and has no access to the solar power of the sun, which fuels him. So he comes out of the ground powerless. So he has the black suit to help him and to help him reabsorb the sun's radiation. And here it's just, nah, man, I have a closet and there's this black one in there that I've never worn. So that's going to be my new suit for no goddamn reason. It'll really help in contrast when I'm standing next to Batman, who's also clad in black. Go ahead.
It'll also do all the extra work that I need to ingratiate myself and not scare people.
Right. Thank you. It absolutely makes no sense, and especially since he passes his suit. It's not like that's the only thing that was presented. He passed his suit and it was like, nah, that was last year. I want to be black. There's something about that Batman thing, that aesthetic that really spoke to me. It absolutely makes no sense. And at the end, if he had and I heard somebody say it was because he was dead. Well, then at the end, when that scene is, he would have back on his regular suit, but he doesn't. I'm fine with him having the black suit. I just want there to be a reason for it. And there's absolutely no reason for it.
This is the overall problem, in that he was trying to satiate longtime fans without putting in the actual hard work that comic books have done, right? Okay. Why is Batman 20 years later? The only reason The Dark Knight Returns resonated so much with all of us and knocked us on our asses in 1986, 1987 was because we had been reading about a young and vibrant Batman for 40 plus years. And then we all went, oh shit, middle-aged and he's kind of dark and doesn't give a shit. It's called contrast. And there was none of that world building done in any of this universe.
So
Superman
Randy,
with the blood. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Randy's commenting, but if they explained the black suit would have helped, it would have been longer. Y'all mofos, man. You know what we could have done? Gotten rid of a good 45 minutes of slow-mo, and then we would have had time to explain the black suit.
To explain that.
It's cool, okay? Like I even get showing up in that final fight in the black suit. It's a resurrection. It's a return. Yeah. Also, too, even as just like a nerd knowing the actual origin of the black suit, how it absorbs better. The next scene where he goes and beats Jesus Christ in front of the sun makes sense. Him continuing to wear it in perpetuity doesn't make sense when he opens up his suit
at the end. Exactly.
But then also in the flash forwards that have no explanation and there's no fucking reason for them at all. He's still wearing his black suit, holding presumed dead Lois, and then Darkseid gets him with the anti-life, and then in the rest of the nightmare, when he's evil, he's wearing red and blue. So as a filmmaker, what are you telling me?
Yeah. There doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason
The color
to
scheme, the color coding or just the coding that you're choosing with this character is he's back and good, black, monochromatic, separated. He's evil now and murderous, original. Like,
yeah, it didn't make any sense.
how did you code this character and why does it make sense?
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. I tell you another. You picked a net, no, and allow me to pick a net. Going to that end, when the movie is over, they vanquish the bad guy, huzzah, and they all climb to the top of this nuclear thing wherever they are. Now, Batman being old crusty Batman, everybody else can fly or run up to the top, but Batman's going to use his catapult. And that's fine. He uses his catapult. He gets to the top. Superman helps him up. And then we get this glorious image of all of them standing on the top, looking out at this nuclear wasteland, but they're looking triumphantly. Well, okay, they're having their triumphant moment. Yes, then they strike the superhero pose. And the camera, goes across all of them. You see all their faces, Flash and Cyborg are high-fiving. It's all cool. Then the camera cuts to the ship coming up and opening up so that they can, depart. After which we flip back for another scene of them looking out triumphantly from where they are, still standing there. The movie has now established that they are just looking victoriously and gloriously at the back of the ship.
That's a poor edit. Yeah.
Just get the fuck on the ship and let's go.
That's a poor edit.
He worked really hard on that ship, though. So
that's true. He did work a lot of half of the movie.
He was working on that ship.
Cyborg made it work.
Can we talk about the nightmare at the end? I'm
sorry to cut you off. I just wanted to give one little thing before we go to the end, because I know we're going to spend a lot of time there. I do want to say we've all talked about how much Cyborg story is the heart to this, and it is the one thing I will say. I didn't like the film, but I do think, having seen that story in its totality, his story, while there could have been edits to it, the fact that so much of it was ripped out of the theatrical release is very egregious. That is really fucked up. That is really fucked up, because there is so much there that is actually good stuff. Is it maybe a little still ponderous? Does some of the beats repeat a bit? Yeah. But to have it totally excised from the 2017 version is really fucked up, and maybe speaks to a window into the world of those other creators outside of Zack Snyder and their thoughts about the movie, and to a degree to echo some of Ray Fisher's viewpoints about him and the character itself.
Well, and I think part of it was also the shenanigans from DC, because if you look at all that storyline, that was exactly the New 52 Justice League.
Yep.
Right? It was very heavily Cyborg focused, because that was the one character you really hadn't been fully. We all knew Cyborg as a Titan, right? And for him coming into the Justice League in the New 52, that required sort of a reintroduction of the character. And a lot of time was spent bringing his story forward in those initial JLA runs. And they got a lot of flack for it. And I wonder if that was DC also stepping in with some of their shenanigans, saying, yeah, this didn't work so well when we ran this in the comics 6 years ago, and we had to do a hard pivot from it. I don't know either, but I'm guessing.
It was Jeff Johns who made that kind of hard press for Cyborg to be graduated, right? Like that started in Flashpoint. So like the world of Flashpoint was Cyborg is the greatest superhero in the world that didn't have Superman. And then he's the one that put him into prominence during the new 52 Justice League. Like he's the new character, the fresh new character in, right?
Yeah.
And all of the backlash is also directed at Johns. So did he double guess or second guess his character, or did he hands off it and it was actually other executives and Whedon and stuff that excised the whole story? Or if you know anything, or like, you know, we all kind of watch all these documentaries and stuff with when it comes to editing a movie or restructuring a movie, one plot point could get rid of, like, one plot point that has to be moved gets rid of full story arcs, which is garbage. But that's not to say though that he was hosed hard and like with that original movie. That makes no sense.
And you look at that time that they took out, and then you talk about, you know, the Ukrainians in the bathtub, and once again that we net in. I think once again this is them just trying to cookie cutter success off of what came before. Think of what came out right before Justice League, Age of Ultron, where you have a whole scene with Ukrainians in a fucking bathtub.
I loved, as much as I didn't like some of the how they depicted his interface, and I'm sorry, but Zack Snyder cannot effectively execute a metaphor for his life. Like in the interface, him seeing, like, they talk about the voiceover talks about the stock market, and it's a bear and a bull literally fighting. I'm like, okay. And then when he has to separate the Unity, and it's him, his mother, and his father standing there, like, I get it. You need to separate the family because that's the Unity, and it's in his head. Like, it's just, there are these fine points that are hammered in with a fucking sledgehammer. He has no subtlety.
He bludgeons. And that's just been a staple of his movie making since square one. He bludgeons a point. Yeah.
JD makes the point too. He had to leave the stream for 2 seconds, but he's still paying attention. I think it might also be just the current fear of DC management to have characters featured who aren't Batman and Superman. I completely agree with that. All the leaguers either had movies already or movies in production to promote, except Cyborg. Actually, no, Cyborg was in development and announced.
He was announced. I don't know how far the development had gone, but he certainly was announced. That's true.
Like, he was supposed to have his own movie that's now gone, and then he was supposed to be in Flashpoint that's now gone.
Oh, is it? So that's been, I guess, probably because of Ray Fisher's beef.
Yeah, they don't want to work with Ray Fisher, which is unfortunate, because he was great in this movie.
He was.
As much as I don't like all the things that they did with him in the story, he really was the linchpin for the entire plot. His experience, his capabilities, and his point in the story made sense at every single juncture.
The casting was fine all around. I didn't have a problem with the casting of anybody.
I don't love Ezra Miller as Barry Allen, but it's fine.
I'll say this. I don't necessarily love this Barry Allen, but I don't think Ezra Miller does a bad job with it. You know
what he was told to do.
Right. He's manic. The whole movie, he's manic. And I don't, somebody that is that in tune with this great source of power. I mean, if that's a story point, then sure. If it's implied, I don't know to do that. I gotta go.
Yeah, I didn't have a problem with him. I also, to JD's point, because he said he thought that this maybe needed a little bit more of the humor from the Whedon version or theatrical release. I disagree. I actually think that the humor that was here is not as forced as in the Whedon version, and thus his and to be fair, most of it does come from the Flash character. I actually felt that it was it felt more genuine, and because of that, I think the implication of whatever mental state he actually is in actually reads more in this version than it did in the 2017 version, which is why I didn't mind that so much.
Well, everything had more room to breathe because there was actual
More
plot
room to
this.
breathe.
I
Right.
mean, there was more room to breathe, right? Because it was 4 hours.
Right.
We got totally abandoned by everybody, didn't we?
We should. We should, and we don't have a control over, like, we can't bring up the comments or anything like that.
No.
But it's
So
still cool. Was there anything else that you wanted to speak on in regards to the film, though, Rob?
We should talk about the ending at some point.
Yeah,
it'd be nice to have the other two guys on the line as we did that.
True.
Mars Comics says I'm here. Well, that's good. Thank you, Mars.
Hey, Mars, what's up? We see you, bro. We do see you. I will pick another nit, and JD just came back. Well, I will pick another nit that in the beginning, and then again, this is another editing thing that pissed me off. Going back to the whole bank scene or whatever that scene is with Wonder Woman, I'm not exactly sure where these crooks are breaking into, but you see the crooks pull up to the van, pulls up to this bank, and they literally pull up across the street from the bank, across the street from the front door. The lead guy gets out, suited up, taps on the door, at which point the sliding door opens and about 7 or 8 guys get out brandishing firearms. The lead guy then crosses the street. I think he has he's carrying a briefcase. He crosses the street, literally crosses the street, ladies and gentlemen, walks past the guard who was there with a gun, walks past him like, hello, Tom. It just keeps walking past, at which point the guard doesn't say anything, doesn't react, but then reacts because from across the street, those 9 guys brandishing guns are now coming at him, walking directly towards him in his sight line with their guns brandished. And it's only then that he starts to pull his gun before he is peppered with bullets. He did not see them pull up right in front of his sight line, get out of the car with their guns locked and loaded, ready to march on pond with the guy in the briefcase that he just let walk by him as if he was Tom from upper management. That made no sense. It's
he was
bad editing.
carrying a briefcase, to be
fair. Yeah.
But he got you. Be quiet, Rob.
Right.
That made absolutely no sense. That pissed me off. I said, "Oh, this is what we're here for. This is crazy." And to Joss Whedon's credit, probably that is not in the 2017 version, because he probably saw the same thing and said, "Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. We're gonna have to tweak that a little bit." So that was my other nit that has been picked.
What did you guys like about the movie? I think there was a lot of stuff that I really liked about the movie. We were talking about Cyborg and his entire story,
right?
With his dad and everything. I really liked the inclusion of him. I think, when people were talking about it and how much of his stuff was cut, I was kind of like, do I really care all that much? Was it really that big of a deal? Now, knowing Cyborg's origin, really. And it really did. It really is. It adds a whole lot more pathos to the film, I think. Randy says, you're right. This is the only time in the history of film where guard guy did the dumb thing and didn't notice shit. Fucking sad.
I'm not saying it's the only time. I'm just saying I noticed it and it bothered me. I noticed it a lot of times. I'm bringing it up now because we're reviewing the movie. Shut up.
Yeah. But yeah,
Randy,
I think there's a lot to like about the movie.
Fans.
I loved ending number 1 with the Martian Manhunter saying, "Hey, Bruce, things are gonna happen, and I'm here for you." And that would have been such a perfect ending.
Wasn't that the end?
Was that after the dream? Shit.
Yeah, because he has the nightmare.
Well, fine. Zach knows he's not getting sequels. Right, he knows at this point in time, as he was cutting this motherfucker, that there's going to be no more sequels. It's not going to happen.
Right.
Bring that thing at the end. Bring that to the frontsies before you go into the fever dream that makes no sense, and then end the movie.
Well, I see your John Jones, and yes, it's cool that he shows up, but he shows up earlier in the film because he poses as Martha Kent visiting.
What the fuck was that about?
Lois Lane, and I don't necessarily understand the juxtaposition of him doing that for Lois Lane, but it happens, whatever. But that implies that one, John Jones is here. John Jones knows what's happening. John Jones, as far as we know, at least maybe has his change shifting abilities and maybe his mind reading abilities because he knows about what Martha means to Lois. We also know, and we can assume that John Jones has his flight and his super strength, which then calls into question, then why does John Jones show up after the big battle to say, hey, I'm here to help? You've been here all along.
Yeah.
Well, Apocalypse uses a lot of fire, so if I was John, I probably would have stepped back out of
That's
that.
funny.
So he chooses his battles. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. But to your question, JD, what I absolutely did like about this film, and I want people to give props where props is due. I liked the relationship because it's a different relationship between this Batman and this Alfred. I like Jeremy Irons' Alfred. It's a totally different feeling Alfred than we've seen before, but I'm with it. I liked Ben Affleck as Batman. I liked him as Batman because he fills the suit, but there's more of his Bruce Wayne here, and it's a more nuanced Bruce Wayne here than we've saw in BVS, and I liked his Bruce Wayne, and I like their dynamic. I like Alfred as a whole because I like the scene, even though it's not necessary, but I like the scene with him micromanaging Wonder Woman how to make tea.
That was great. That was really cute.
I loved that aspect of this film. I would have loved for Ben Affleck to be regular age Batman with that Alfred. I could have watched them for movies in like 3 more movies.
100%. I think I'm hearing from a lot of people. I think that's kind of the consensus is ever since BVS, even though a lot of people had a problem with the representation of Superman in that film and in this, universe as a whole, everyone I've talked to have been like, but Batfleck, I didn't like the idea when he was first cast, but boy, did he win me over. He is one of my favorite Batman. His sequence in the warehouse in BVS is one of the best Bat fights of all time, et cetera, et cetera. And yes, I absolutely love Jeremy Irons as Alfred. He feels like a guy who could help Batman with all of these things. Absolutely. I don't think there's a problem with Batman in this universe. Even, so many people were like, he was killing people in BVS. Yes, but he's also been doing it for 20 years and he has lost all hope and he is spiraling down. He's a downward spiral, right? And it's not until he meets Superman and that somehow he finds hope. I will say that again in quotes, somehow finds hope.
Right.
Yeah,
I still don't understand that development, but it was him going through all of that was a character arc.
Yeah, it was never the Batman of it all that was the problem. It was the fact that they juxtaposed him against a beacon of hope that was never depicted as a beacon of hope.
Right.
So it just was like grim and grimmier.
Yeah.
Well, and let's be honest, it's a case of tell, don't show. And that's where I go back again. They're not picking a lane as far as who they're trying to please and placate with these movies.
Yeah.
We fill in holes, whether it's subconscious or consciously, as we are sitting there watching it. We are remembering everything we have read and imbibed up until that point in time. So I love to look at it from the lens of somebody coming in fresh to all this without all the comic history. It's a very different freaking experience for those people. And I think that's where they always fall behind Marvel, who does better fan service to both.
Yeah.
Right.
Robert Monroe Jr. asks, so is it worth me getting HBO Max just for JL the Snyder Cut? I'm going to go first. I think yes. I think if you're going to spend 1 month on HBO Max, which is what? How much?
$15.
$14.99.
$15 for a 4-hour Justice League movie, I think is absolutely worthwhile. I definitely say you get it. Also, enjoy the other
Yeah.
shitstorm of stuff on HBO Max. There's
Wasn't
so
it?
much stuff in that streaming service. I say 100% worthwhile, even if you're just watching the Snyder Cut. What do you think, Len?
It's better than the 27. It depends on your version of the 2017 version. If you didn't like that, but you're interested in seeing a better movie than that, then sure, get it. And $15 worth for a 4-hour film, I'll give you that. I still land on the side of not liking the film, but it. I will say that if you were interested in seeing a better Justice League film than the 2017 one, then this is a better film than that. And I will say, you know what? I'll say yeah, get it, because you'll spend the 4 hours then watching the movie, but then to JD's point, you'll spend the rest of the month just indulging in everything else on there. You watch the real Justice League and Justice League Unlimited animated series. Watch Young Justice. Watch, regale yourself with the old Batman and Superman movies.
The Harley Quinn animated series.
The Harley Quinn animated series is bananas fun. So there's a lot to enjoy on HBO Max. I am not going to front.
Doom Patrol.
Doom Patrol.
Yeah, see it,
which has a lot more Cyborg.
And an equally good Cyborg. I will argue. Yeah, he's a little short.
I'm gonna answer that. So the question is binary. I'm gonna answer it like Brian would, as just a question. So is it worth me getting HBO Max just for Justice League: The Snyder Cut? No. It's worth getting HBO Max for all of the other stuff that's there, and you'll be able to watch the Snyder Cut also.
There you go.
I will say it depends on how you feel about the totality of this universe. This is the culmination of 3 films. You don't walk into this soft. You don't walk into this without any other pretext, because then it makes no fucking sense.
That's true.
How did you feel about the other 2 films, and do you want to see the end cap?
Yeah. Especially, I put it down, Noel. I think, you can enjoy all of the Snyderverse on there, and, enjoy in quotes for, give or take, however you feel about that. Action Figure Expert asks a very, very good question.
Oh boy.
What are your thoughts on the Joker? Holy shit!
Which brings us to the epilogue.
I tried to bring this up earlier, and we pushed it back, and so now we're going to finally talk about the Nightmare sequence, which is just plopped in there without any, just no transition or anything. It's just there, and boy, top to bottom, it's terrible. There are so many things that I enjoy about this movie. And overall, it was a very pleasant experience for me. It was a surprisingly pleasant experience. I legitimately enjoy this overall. If we're going binary, yes, I like this movie. Holy shit. Oh my God. The fucking Nightmare is top to bottom, cringe-worthy, edgelord, terrible dialogue, just so many strange decisions made in there. I hate it so much. And if it was just excised from the film completely, it would be a better experience for everybody.
Should have been, especially knowing he wasn't getting sequels.
Yeah. And from my understanding, it wasn't part of the Snyder Cut. It wasn't part of a thing that was already filmed. He went and filmed it recently.
Yeah, this is all the reshoot.
This is a reshoot, which means you didn't have to do it, especially if it's not leading towards anything. The dialogue between Batman and the Joker is just the worst. It really, the entire time I was rolling my eyes and sort of cringing and laughing at how bad it was. It felt like just like edgelord fan film. It was so bad.
Fan film is it. It felt like a fan film.
And I actually didn't hate what's his nuts' version of the Joker from
Jared Leto.
Jared Leto's version of the Joker from Suicide Squad. I thought it was an interesting take on the character. Didn't love it, but he was definitely doing his own thing. And then this version was even worse somehow. And I hate his laugh. I hate his dialogue. I hate his conversation with Batman. Absolutely. I like the look of them. I thought the look was pretty cool. And as we all know, Zack Snyder is very good at the look of things.
Mm-hmm.
What did you guys think of the Joker, Rob?
Utterly unnecessary. And again, I'm going to say mildly confusing because I have had people, and I know people tell me I'm nuts for saying this, all right, that it's just assumed that the Joker killed Robin. I'm sorry, you don't know that because it was never shown in the universe. And that's what he's hinging this entire conversation on, really pissing him off with. Mm-hmm. And I just think I don't know. It's a tell, don't show. It's assuming that the audience has a pretext of knowledge that never occurred in the other two films, save for that one scene very quickly in BVS where they show the suit. Yeah. Right, the Robin suit, which doesn't even look really like a Robin suit because it's so fucking dark, right? I mean, it
looks like a Batman suit with spray paint on it.
A little bit does, yeah. And I loved Injustice. Okay, I mean, I loved Tom Taylor's Injustice.
Yeah,
and that's what this was trying to hearken to. But again, it was doing it lazy as fuck because it's not showing the audience anything of Injustice. As that scene is playing, I'm flipping through the first 3 issues of the very first Injustice I read. I don't know, when was that? 10 years ago? To try and understand what the hell this scene is.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you know what? I didn't like the epilogue. It was stupid. It was unnecessary. Right. But I did take it, especially once, when I learned that this was the majority of the reshoot. I did take it for what it was. This was Zack Snyder's thank you to all the Snydernauts who got the Zack Snyder Justice League cut, made it a thing. Okay. Right? This was his thank you. Here is my, my wet dream for you. And then I'm giving you a little sprinkling, just a little something, a little taste.
Okay.
It's unnecessary. It makes no sense. It's not well done. Visually, it's interesting, because like you said, the man knows how to paint a picture for the most part. I would argue he's not that great at it, but he's interesting with it. But I just took it as like this was Zack Snyder's little $70 million fan film to all of the Release the Snyder Cut guys and keep it moving. Now,
I also on top of that, if I may, I wonder if it's partly, hey guys, if you do restore the Snyderverse, maybe we'll get even more of it. So I'm going to put this in here to egg you on even further.
And that's exactly where I was going to go. Now, if this fosters something like that,
it's already started.
Then that's the danger of, and that's the danger of this type of shit. It ain't going to go nowhere. Trust me, ladies and gentlemen, it's not. And my biggest thing is I didn't like it being a nightmare. I would have loved for this to have just been like, oh, this is an allusion to Flashpoint. Mm-hmm. It's another universe, you know? And if it had done that, it still would have been unnecessary, but I would have rolled with it, and this film could have fit in canonically with whatever the fuck they're doing, and they'll find a way to do that. They're finding a way to do that with Flashpoint. Yeah. But it was just a piece of fluff. I
think they've learned enough by now, and I've got to believe no matter how much clamoring occurs on the internets, if they don't make back that 70 million that they pumped into this with a bump up in streaming subscriptions, I don't care how much they bitch and whine on the internet. WB's not going to, they're not going to get it. No.
Yeah, right. Do we I have no idea whether or not this was a successful release or not.
We won't know for months because the streaming numbers are recorded differently and they can release them at will and as they want. Yeah. So we won't see that unless there's a good picture to show.
I think I would argue that I have a funny feeling they are not upset about the buzz that this has created,
right?
Because it is completely swallowed the release of Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
It sure has.
As far as being taught now, we don't know how long this will last. Falcon and Winter Soldier has the benefit of being a series, so it'll be continuing on for a couple of weeks. This is getting like the hardcores in here for like, you know, this first weekend, maybe next weekend too. We'll see how long that bump lasts. But so they're not upset with that, I'm certain.
I have a question, actually. Speaking of that, do you think this would have been a more successful viewing experience for y'all if it was a weekly 6-episode miniseries?
No, I would have been pissed off.
Same?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Just was curious.
But I'm sorry, I was just going to say, pulling it back, I'll let you guys in behind the scenes of the business world right now and where we're transforming in 2022, especially in 2021, with the social media to the actual sales and metrics. And while social media has been getting great buzz for everybody, there's a disparity right now of trying to track actual revenue and numbers at the bottom of the funnel from social media buzz. And that's where I say the actual revenue isn't not there. Buzz aside, executives are not caring as much about the buzz because it's not equating to more money at the bottom of the funnel. So,
well, that's one of the things that I've never quite understood about streaming services and the model for it, where we have things aside from Mulan, which you paid $30 extra on top of your subscription fee,
Right.
is if enough. So many people already have HBO Max, and then they put all of this money into the Snyder Cut. There's only so many more people you can sign up, right? Like that caps at a certain point,
right.
to make it worthwhile. So you already have everybody subscribed to your service, and then you funnel 70 million into something like this. How do they make their money back if they already have the subscribers?
Well, here's the question. It's the cable versus streaming model.
Yeah.
Right. And there are so many people that are still getting their shit off of cable, and HBO wants to untether that because they've got to give a person. You go anywhere in the country, your HBO might be a slightly different service depending upon who your cable provider is, because they subscribe to that version of HBO, and HBO loses part of the revenue. They've got to give that back to that cable company. Their ideal is to get everybody to cut the cord from the cable company and give the money direct revenue to HBO. That's who they're still trying to convert and bring over.
Yeah. Gotcha. And then correct me if I'm wrong, Rob, but even though they may reach a cap on how many subscribers you can have, then the fight becomes retention of those subscribers.
Correct.
Especially as more and more streaming, vehicles get out there, they've got to be able to keep their eyes on the prize, keep their people locked into HBO.
Absolutely. And there's a retention factor. And let's not forget all the great Ukrainian servers that are out there where you can just download your BitTorrent file and watch it at will, right? Yeah.
All right. I guess we talked for quite a while. There, as I was enjoying watching the 4 hours, there was something in me as a comic book fan that I would love more of this sort of thing. I like being able to sit down for a 4-hour experience and do kind of deep dive into things I love, these characters that I love, whether or not I agree with all the decisions or not. I still found this entire experience to be kind of fulfilling. I really enjoyed it just on a geeky level. Being able to spend this amount of time with these characters and see more of the things that were supposed to be included in the original version. I really enjoyed that Zack Snyder was able to complete his vision, come back after a terrible tragedy and put the work in and get a reward for it, if not monetarily, because I understand he wasn't paid for this. He was already paid for the original. But I don't think he got paid any extra for it. This was really just sort of a passion project and a project for the fans. And that I really respect. I think it's really cool. I don't respect the fans who made it happen by being super toxic about it, those specific fans. I don't think they should be rewarded for their shitty behavior. But the other people who just like their Zack Snyder movies and their Justice League movie that they wish had come to fruition originally, I'm glad they got to see it. And I really had a lot of fun with it to varying degrees. But overall, this was a pleasant experience for me. Anybody want to put a bow on it? What do you got to say, Len?
I'm just going to answer the last question in there from in the chat from Action Figure Expert. He asked about Darkseid's how he was depicted in the film, and I actually didn't mind Darkseid's depiction in the film. I actually didn't mind their depiction of the Fourth World characters. I thought Steppenwolf was better.
Yeah.
Than in the theatrical release. Deicide was kind of cool. The brief glimpse at Granny Goodness didn't look like my Granny Goodness, but
Granny Goodness.
But it's Granny Goodness. But Darkseid, I didn't mind at all. I thought it was very imposing for what it was. It was kind of cool.
Speaking of Steppenwolf, I like the way they dispatched him. I was like, oh shit, that's brutal.
Yeah, they were. That's where Wonder Woman being a warrior is like, no, we dead these bros. So I that was cool.
Rob.
Final bow. Warner Brothers is lazy, and they've done this entire universe in a very lazily fashion to play catch up. I would love to see a reset and see it all done right with, real service and real time to draw it all out. It just felt like everything we've known and loved just sort of scrunched together with a lot of important beats and moments taken out over time and left a lot of confusion. Was this better than 4 hours of watching Jane Austen flicks? Hell yeah. All right. I'm a nerd. So yes, I'm on board with that. I just don't think that Warner Brothers has the right people in charge to build these universes, and they've got to stop trying to copy in Marvel's footsteps and do a redo.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, I wish that there wasn't so much animosity baked around this, the Snyderness of it all. And it's not even him at this point. It's just people that claim him or something. Either way, I am glad it exists. I'm glad I watched it. I did enjoy the experience, even though I had things that I just inherently didn't agree with as story points. But that doesn't mean they were wrong. It's just not what I wanted. That's fine. Yeah. I'm not butthurt about it. I hope that this just puts a button on it. I'm very tired of there's a difference between creating media that's expandable and creating media just to expand it. I wasn't a part of the whole Nightmare Vision scenario or conversation, part of the conversation, but my only cap on it was that you're throwing these things in just to figure them out later or to just touch on them later, but they don't matter for the story now. So stop it. Like I hate the forced or fabricated gravitas importance or sequelizing of stuff. Like I get it if you can expand it, in a shared universe, cool. But just adding these visions that make no sense, to me, that's forced, and that's almost been indicative of this whole series of films, like reverse engineering importance instead of just earning it. Yeah. So, in terms of how we hopefully create larger endeavors like this, where it's, it's going to be a multi-picture thing, just worry about the story first. Worry about the first movie, the one movie, and then just we'll go from there, as opposed to announce 12 films and just watch it in slow motion fall apart.
Well, or announce the 12 films and have a definitive plan in place. They didn't really do that. They didn't announce the 12 films, and they kept shifting wind and direction as they came out with the new films. Batman versus Superman wasn't supposed to have a waft of Wonder Woman in it. Then they threw in Wonder Woman in the last moment to move forward to the Justice League because they said we have to compete with Avengers.
They did announce like a whole slate of 5 years and a bunch of movies. They announced all of those flicks a couple years ago. It was
that's how you knew there was going to be a Cyborg movie.
Cyborg, Flash, Green Lantern Corps, Wonder Woman, Justice League Part 1, Justice League Part 2. Like they had a whole 5-year slate. Because they were essentially they were mimicking the Marvel event where they were just like, here's the next 3 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they just announced all these movies without actual creative teams, without filmmakers, without story points. It was just like we got to spin all this out.
Yeah, they had logos.
That's the kind of shit that I'm talking about. Like I hope that this is a terrible term, but a nail in the coffin, because I don't want this to die. I don't want the Justice League to be over. It's just this phase of it. This is a wonderful victory for fans of this phase. Take the W, let's try something else.
Well, I actually think that Flashpoint is the reason why they're going ahead with that is because they're going to use that as the vehicle to reset things.
Cool.
Great.
Yeah, hopefully that one. Hopefully I'll enjoy that more. I'm glad that everyone enjoyed this this whole phase as much as they have, but I'm glad we have a button on it. All right, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us this week. Join us in a week from now at 10:30 a.m. We will do spoiler alert comic reviews again, and hopefully we'll get around to maybe some Falcon and Winter Soldier discussion. Mars says, "Good show, guys. I missed Brian, but Rob, you did really well. Thanks. Best part, the baby was here. Yeah, little Kai was here. And he was having a fit, so I had to give him back to his mother. Thanks so much for joining us, guys, and we will talk at you later."
Bye.